Anyways, Lord, yeah, I'm back. Hey, nice, wonderful Saturday. You know, yeah, that's what it is. We here though. What's up, y'all? Show Smokes, Dust Smokes. Fish back in the video. So now, for some god reason, we here. As soon as I come back on a 2 day, on a 2 day, because it was storming crazy for them 2 days. Like I don't know why it was storming so crazy for them 2 days. Like power got hit, my house got hit, the power. I'm like, God, you just can't win for lose with those 2 days, bro. Like, bro, and then it didn't storm again yesterday. I don't know what's going on with this Louisiana stuff though. But now when I come back. Nah, CoryxKenshin. Someone got a problem with CoryxKenshin. What is going on? But we had a CoryxKenshin situation is the same. Act. What's going on with this, bro? If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media that pop on the screen. We is on the road to 500. Not 500. 700. We is on the road that fat 700. Also, if you like the videos, share it to a friend, to a family. You know, get them into my videos and stuff like that. But today, we still on that road to that fat 700. You already know. Let's get it. Anyway.
Legal counsel representing CoryxKenshin sent me a cease and desist letter regarding content I published that discussed allegations and claims made by multiple individuals.
I'm sorry, but seriously, is anyone shocked in the slightest that this happened? Ladies and gentlemen, Slumpian viewers, a year ago this month, we started covering the accusations that Panda Ninja levied against CoryxKenshin. Since those accusations broke against CoryxKenshin last year, we've extensively covered the situation since that.
And this is just the situation of how CoryxKenshin, they were talking about he was a terrible boyfriend, and all the other stuff was going on as like, is this what it is, or is somebody that's like got something different to it?
By the end of the situation, former friend of CoryxKenshin, Mavatak, had got involved in the situation, and the last thing posted was a video by him titled CoryxKenshin's Alleged Victim. To say this video by Mavatak was not only bad, but incredibly reckless would be an incredible understatement. Mavatak had taken it upon himself to platform these quote-unquote alleged victims who hadn't come on to speak about themselves with very little evidence for very serious accusations. To say very little evidence or proof, I mean that is being charitable because a lot of these claims had none.
Whole group chat thing? That's actually nauseating. I never wanted to believe he'd actually show people stuff like that. How did you even find out he was sending your pics? I didn't have proof, but I put 2 and 2 together after a while. I would send one pic and he would ask for more and ask derogatory questions for a spicy response from me, then go ghost, which made me realize he was hyping me to entertain his posse.
It was crazy to see Mavatak just blindly platform quote-unquote victims who had absolutely no proof of even an association with CoryxKenshin, let alone any evidence of the things they were claiming. Everything we've discussed here is just a sliver of how insane the situation was, and how badly and recklessly Mavatak handled the said situation. Now, I highly recommend if you want to learn more about the situation to go and check out my previous coverage, but it does seem like Mavatak's reckless behavior in this situation has come back to bite him in the arse as CoryxKenshin's legal team got involved. When I was at the time recording, CoryxKenshin's legal team sent me a cease and desist.
Legal counsel representing CoryxKenshin sent me a cease and desist letter regarding content I published that discussed allegations and claims made by multiple individuals. In this video, I am going to explain what I received, how I understood it, what followed, and where I stand now.
I mean, everyone wanted to know where he went and why he wasn't speaking about the situation, and I guess we got the answer. I'm always incredibly wary when we see a YouTuber or a content creator or an online influencer go down the legal route when dealing with a situation. And that's in any capacity, right? Even if it is just a cease and desist. And my worries and concerns around content creators going down.
I'm gonna say this on a guy honest truth, and guy honest truth. Whatever somebody do off camera does not have to be into the internet. Whatever he do off camera, that is his business. That is none of our business. Why is we worrying about another grown man, about his choice in life and stuff? If he like to do that, such and such, and that's on him. Why is we worrying about that? Why, as us, as a community, as people, worrying about another grown man? As long as he's mental health is good, he's positive, he's excited to make these videos and come out with more than manga books. Hey, that's all we need to know. We don't need no extra stuff about his daily pricing and stuff. Unless he's coming out physically saying it off his two lip gums and it's coming out his mouth, then you could sit there and say, okay, all right, okay then. Then you can put your opinion. But if he's don't want you to know what else he do off camera, then there's no point in you in general to try to, be nosy. Like, real talk.
And a route like that has only increased further with the frivolous actions taken by someone like Ethan Klein as of recent. When it comes to CoryxKenshin's handling of this situation, I'm honestly not surprised he went down this avenue whatsoever. And I really don't blame him. The content that Maverick was putting out was incredibly reckless, he was platforming accusations with absolutely no evidence, and he was clearly trying to push a narrative that CoryxKenshin was this evil, horrific abuser. You are the one that are platforming mainly unheard accusations that have absolutely no proof. You are going to be the person that all the shit comes back onto. It's one of the many reasons why being the person to break the accusation instead of letting the victims come out on their own accords and their own platform is a risky move, because you carry a part of that burden to make sure that you are putting those accusations out there properly and you've got all your ducks in a row. And if you want to take on that risk...
If you're trying to put a case or an accusation on somebody, I probably said that wrong or pronounced it wrong, but it's what it is. Or allegations on somebody, you better have proof and evidence, message, videos. You better have freaking, everything. But if you don't got everything and you got little bit evidence, a little evidence, only a little bit, and it's not matching what you saying, bro, you're not winning that court case, bro. You're not winning the internet eyes. I was just saying it both ways. Like, you just can't make freaking allegations on people's name and thinking you gotta have a strong, yeah.
You need to know what you're actually doing, and Maverick very clearly didn't know what he was doing. He was publishing accusations publicly on the behalf of other people without a shred of evidence. Which is one thing for that testimony to come directly from an individual on their own platform, and it's for another thing for you to platform that individual saying those things without any evidence. I mean, both aren't great, but the latter is severely worse, especially for the person platforming them.
January 30th, 2026, I received a cease and desist letter by email from legal counsel representing CoryxKenshin. I am not going to display private contact information, legal addresses, signatures, or unnecessary identifying details. I am also not treating this video like a legal proceeding. A cease and desist letter is not a court ruling, and discussing one online does not resolve the dispute. But the correspondence is part of the reason this video exists, so I believe it is important to explain its general substance. The letter disputes the accuracy, interpretation, and presentation of portions of my previous content. It states that Cory denies the categories of misconduct discussed in the January 5th, 2026 video, and characterizes the interactions at issue as consensual adult interactions.
In regards to that video and any accusations within, this is the first thing we've heard from CoryxKenshin in any way, shape, or form. I think the only thing I have to say with taking it down this route and issuing a cease and desist is it really worth doing all this for a video with 30,000 views, even if ultimately I can understand why CoryxKenshin would want to. And that isn't a defense of Maverick. That is just me simply pointing out that that video really didn't get much traction outside of commentary YouTubers who covered it and
nowadays, bro, you gotta realize people get allegations or rumors or stuff like that on a regular basis. It get to a point people just don't even care no more. Cause that's what I told y'all before. If you're new to the channel, I'm about to tell y'all once again. People were dead serious. Copy paste your content, post it on YouTube. Just put a little buzz to it, mix it up how they want to mix it up in their way, and post it. That's what and once people finally realizing now it's he's basically saying the same stuff but just putting in his own words to it. Is it true? Is it false? You know what? I don't care. On to the next one.
to shreds. Ultimately, is it worth the hassle outside of just the principle of the entire situation? The problem I massively had with Mavitag's video as well is if there were actual alleged victims that truly were victims of CoryxKenshin, the other ones that had absolutely zero proof completely weighed them down. And that's without mentioning Mavitag's credibility, which would have just shot them completely. And once more, this all comes down to not only Mavitag's handling of the situation, but just the lack of evidence provided.
The correspondence argues that private conduct was selectively reframed in a materially misleading way. It also challenges how I interpreted and presented certain screenshots and messages, particularly my previous references to fabrication, Photoshop, or AI. The letter argues that those conclusions were made without sufficient technical verification and says that the disputed materials refuted earlier accusations rather than supporting them. It characterizes my decision to speak publicly as being motivated by profit and attention, argues that attributing statements to other people does not remove responsibility for publishing them.
This is something that I've noted and been speaking about since January. An overwhelming majority of the claims within that video, it was the first time that we were actually hearing of them, and it was Mavitag who was platforming them said accusation. And he was doing it in the worst way possible without a shred of evidence for a large majority of those claims. That was always going to come back to bite him in the ass in some way, shape or form, if it was public scrutiny or something like this. Simply put, Mavitag wouldn't be in the situation that he is currently in if he decided to handle the situation properly and wasn't a reckless twat.
Claims that the publications caused reputational harm and raises a separate copyright concern regarding the use of video content. The letter requests the removal of specific content, a public retraction or correction of certain statements, and preservation of materials connected to the dispute.
Mavitag, after stating this, goes on to clarify the following.
Says that Cory would prefer to avoid litigation but will enforce his rights if necessary.
Yeah, the hope would be in this situation is that Mavitag complies with the cease and desist and nothing has to escalate beyond that point.
I didn't treat the letter as a court finding, but I did treat it as a formal notice that specific statements, interpretations, and uses of content were being challenged. That required me to review my wording, the materials I relied on, the way different videos could be understood together, and what should remain public. That is part of why I am making this video the way I am making it now. I am not erasing my experience, and I am not pretending I had no reason to speak. I am not dismissing the experiences, communications, materials, and concerns that led to me speaking publicly in the first place, but I do recognize the weight of speaking publicly about serious matters, especially when those matters involve someone's name, reputation, career, audience, and community.
I mean, you clearly didn't intuit.
If you think about it, majority of the stuff you low-key is saying is trying to ruin and reputate somebody else's career. So just because they probably don't, you and him fell off and stuff like that, doesn't mean you go out there on your internet, on your platform, your little platform or your community, and trying to downplay somebody or, like trying to make their career down or something like that, just because he's not messing with you no more. And that's where right there, you gotta watch out for people like that. People is weird.
Escalated to this point. We were very happy to publish unheard accusations with very little to no evidence and go around actively mocking CoryxKenshin during this time and go on a hate slander campaign. It's only now that things are escalated that you're properly thinking about this because you don't want it to go any further than it has to. Again, this all comes back to Mavitag's reckless handling of the situation.
I then narrowed the public visibility of certain uploads. Those visibility changes are separate from preservation. The underlying records have not been erased simply because some material is no longer publicly accessible. The purpose of narrowing that content is to reduce confusion and avoid further escalation, not to pretend the content never existed or to remove the preserved record.
I'm in floods of tears that content got removed, mate. I'm devastated.
I chose to speak publicly. I am not going to pretend I did not make that choice. I chose that path because, from my perspective, remaining silent did not feel honest to what I had experienced, reviewed, and understood at the time. The letter characterizes that decision as being motivated by profit and as using Cory's prominence to generate attention and traffic. I want to address that directly. The serious commentary videos were monetized. I am not hiding that. I also recognize that publishing
just say you wanted some little clicks and likes and stuff on your videos. Just say you wanted Cory, you wanted Cory to do more videos with you, my guy. Like, just say that. Just say that. You knew you was gonna delete them videos regardless. If his team or not was gonna hit you up, regardless, you was gonna delete them regardless. There was no point of you going out here stating and say, "Oh yeah, this video was monetized" and all that stuff. And you were just trying to get your clicks and likes like everybody else. Like, come on, my nigga.
Content involving a prominent creator can attract attention, views, and revenue. But those things do not accurately describe why I chose to.
I don't believe Mavatag's reasoning for publishing all of this content and the content on behalf of these alleged victims came down to a money-orientated and view perspective. From my own opinion on the situation, I think it came down to an emotionally and personally charged ideal. Mavatag's entire involvement in the situation stems from the fact that he was former friends with CoryxKenshin and they had a falling out. It's very clear he had emotional ties in the situation, and ultimately I think that was the driving force for a lot of his reckless decisions within the situation. A lot of them, I think, driven from the fact to try and get back at CoryxKenshin. Of course, that's just my perspective. I'm very interested to see what you, the viewer, would have to say about that.
I chose to speak because of my own experiences, the communications and materials I had reviewed, and the concerns that had been brought to me. I stand by what I personally experienced and by the reasons I chose to speak. I also stand by my right
Listen, you don't gotta talk to your homie every day. Like, I hope everybody know that you don't have to talk to your homeboy or your homie every day. As long as you got their location, and as long as you know where they straight, they good. They not doing no crazy thing out there. They not. You know what I'm talking about. You know when you pass by, the block and you see them people just standing still. I mean, hey, as long as none of my homies or homegirls doing that, bro. Hey, man, they living a good, decent life. And they don't know they can always, I'm one call, that's all. I can always donate some money. Put a little money in your pockets. Never. It was never a problem for me to put no money in your pockets. But if you think you felt the fall off because of miscommunication, not talking, or nothing like that, no, that is probably your fault for not communicating with him, not trying to get some more content out of him, or trying to be friend to friend, or meeting him personally, or going to China with him, or doing things like that. That is your fault. You did that.
explain my perspective. But once I chose a public path, I became responsible for how I carried that choice. That is the balance I'm trying to hold here. I can stand by my reasons for speaking while also choosing restraint. I can acknowledge that the situation became emotionally charged without turning this video into another escalation.
Yes, I mean, you have to because it's a cease and desist, right? You don't get much wiggle room here, but this is realistically the way you should have been conducting the situation the entire time, in a serious manner, especially if you wanted to be the one to publicize accusations that hadn't been heard against CoryxKenshin before. We're not talking about a commentary YouTuber, a drama YouTuber, or just a YouTuber in general covering accusations that have been levied towards another content creator by another individual. We're talking about someone who decided to, by their own accord, publicize accusations from individuals that hadn't come out to speak about it themselves. Without Mavatag making their video, a lot of the accusations we heard within, we wouldn't have actually heard before. So having some restraint, not being emotionally charged, and not being reckless are some things that Mavatag should have taken into consideration when making his content and publicizing his videos against Cory. I'm just going to speed up the next bit because it is important, but it is a lot of, waffle.
When I offered an interpretation, that interpretation was also based on the information available to me. But an interpretation should not be presented as a technical finding or a legal conclusion. That distinction matters. Some of the serious commentary also includes statements from other people describing their own experiences. Those portions should be understood as personal accounts and allegations from the individuals making them, not as court findings or legal conclusions. I also understand that identifying something as an allegation or attributing a statement to another person does not remove my responsibility for deciding how to present and publish it. When I included those accounts, I did so because I had reviewed communications, context, recordings, or other materials that I believe made the discussion relevant.
I'm glad he speed forward. God damn, I got shot.
I tried to make it clear when I was describing my own experience, when I was offering my interpretation, and when another person was speaking for themselves. The serious commentary I am addressing was based on materials, messages, statements, context, and, where applicable, recordings that I personally received, reviewed, documented, or preserved. I am not presenting this video as a final determination of what occurred. There is a difference between what someone believes based on the information available to them and what can be independently authenticated or formally established through a qualified technical or legal process. Before publishing the earlier video, I did not rely only on screenshots that had been sent to me. I personally viewed the message thread as it appeared on the source's device. I also reviewed and preserved a recording of a support interaction concerning how the messages appeared on that device. I treated that interaction as additional context. I did not treat it as forensic authentication by Apple or as proof of authorship, completeness, underlying metadata, or how any separate image was created. I did not independently extract or examine the underlying message database or original metadata. I also did not have a qualified digital forensics expert conduct an independent analysis of the disputed materials.
Again, all of this comes down to how Mavatag publicly went about the situation, how he provided the evidence that he was given with these accusations, and the accusations leveled against CoryxKenshin that he was given to publicize. A lot of what Mavatag is saying towards the latter end of this clip is all about if he actually went through those extra steps to confirm what he was being sent and the message logs to actually confirm their legitimacy. Now, of course, a lot of what he's saying is based on a legal precedent and because of the cease and desist, but ultimately I do think it's very funny because we really saw no actual evidence. We didn't see any chat logs, we didn't see any of these calls, none of this was actually really properly included in his video outside of a couple of examples for certain accusations. A lot of the accusations were very lacking in evidence and proof, or had nothing at all and was just purely testimony. And was, like alleged, only do a certain amount of carrying when you were pushing those accusations and are directly the source for those claims. I think what also makes a lot of this hard to follow outside of the, legal mumbo jumbo is ultimately there is no clarification on what specifically Mavatak is speaking about when referencing these details.
In the earlier video, I used direct language about fabrication, Photoshop, or AI, based on what I had observed, differences between the materials, the support interaction, and the surrounding context available to me at the time. Those circumstances gave me reasons to question the disputed presentation. But having reasons to question something is not the same as having a forensic conclusion, and my earlier wording did not make that distinction clearly enough. For that reason, I am not repeating Photoshop, AI, or fabrication here as established technical facts. The materials raised questions for me, but any definitive conclusion about whether an image was altered or accurately reflected the underlying data should be based on original data, qualified technical analysis, and other reliable evidence reviewed through an appropriate process.
Now, from him saying earlier video and talking about messages being altered, it's very clear that he's talking about the Panda Ninja situation, as that was a key element in that story, especially when CoryxKenshin had responded. That was a heavy line of argumentation against CoryxKenshin, that he had heavily altered those messages to push a certain narrative and his side to try and discredit Panda Ninja. Mavatak then goes on to talk about the copyright element of the situation before stating that a physical version of the cease and desist was handed to one of his family members. Mavatak then goes on to reveal that after receiving the cease and desist,
Cory called me. I am not going to play the call or quote it line by line. The conversation concerned the dispute, prior events, and our history. I took time to process that conversation as part of deciding how to move forward. Because the call came after the legal correspondence and involved our prior history, I experienced it as serious and emotionally heavy. I am not assigning legal meaning or private intent to what was said, and I am not presenting my reaction to the call as proof of anyone's intent or wrongdoing. Cory may remember or understand that conversation differently. That is why I am keeping the description general, preserving the relevant material, and limiting what I say publicly.
The next day.
I am not asking anyone to blindly believe me. I am also not asking anyone to blindly defend anyone else. Whether you support me, support him, feel conflicted, or are simply trying to understand, I am not asking you to attack anybody. I am asking people to listen carefully, think critically, and remember that serious situations rarely fit cleanly into internet narratives. There has to be room for a middle ground.
There definitely is always room for a middle ground, and no situation, especially one featuring allegations, is never not nuanced. There is always nuances in accusation-based situations. However, when you recklessly publish accusations with little to no evidence, there is ultimately going to be less nuance on that side, and less, ultimately, charitability when it comes to that aspect of the situation. People are more likely to side with CoryxKenshin when faced with accusations that have absolutely no evidence behind them and come from a place with absolutely zero credibility. If the claims didn't jump to conclusions, actually had evidence behind them, and weren't published by someone who had zero credibility and a clear bias towards CoryxKenshin,
so listen, if you knew you talked to CoryxKenshin about the situation, and I'm not saying, I don't know if he posted the day after they got in a phone call, because it sounded like he did. If you knew what was going on and you knew that it was like you ain't had no good evidence, then what was the point of you making a video regardless of anything? Like, but you're like, hey, I got a little evidence, something, little text matches or something. That's not how it works. That's not. It would never work like that. Never in your favor. It would never work like that. Never.
More nuance and more charitability in that situation. And I'm speaking not only from a content creator's perspective, but also an audience perspective.
No, some people will say I shouldn't speak at all. Others will probably say I should go harder. Some people may never see this the way I do. But I don't believe pushing harder is what this situation needs right now. I think it needs clarity, I think it needs restraint, and I think it needs people to remember that public conflict still involves human beings. That is why I am making this video. Not to tear anyone down, not to keep the conflict going. I am giving you the context I can give from the position I actually lived through.
And that was Mavatak's video talking about the cease and desist. Of course, there is stuff that I haven't included in this video, so I highly recommend that you go and check out Mavatak's video for yourself and watch that.
Anyways, bro, I wouldn't, bro, in all years of living on this earth, bro, I would never try to downplay another man, career, or make fake rumors about him, or like, no, bro. Like, that sound like, to me, son, of Man, bro, you don't spend time with me more than like you spend time with all the rest of your friends. That's what it giving me. That's what it's giving me. Man, you don't make content with me, but you make content with your other friends. Like those type of niggas. Gotta watch out for them dudes, bro. But hey, man, hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow our social media, pop on the screen. We is on the road to 500, and I'm out.